They thought she was just another old woman on the base. But the moment the sergeant saluted, the entire squad froze. That morning the sun baked the training field in a golden haze. Dust swirled around boots and laughter. A woman in her late 60s, wearing a faded brown coat and carrying an old duffel bag, walked slowly across the gravel. Her hands trembled, but her eyes, steel gray and unblinking, watched everything. Before I tell you what happened next, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I love knowing who's listening. Two young soldiers, new recruits barely out of their teens, whispered to each other as she passed. Her bag looked heavy, military style. Probably some old cleaner, one of them muttered. Bet she's got something valuable in there. When she set the bag down near the benches to catch her breath, one of them grinned and nudged the other. Watch this. He stepped forward, pretending to tie his boot, his hand sliding toward the duffel's zipper. But before his fingers touched the metal, the woman's shadow fell over him. Son, she said softly. That bag's heavier than it looks. He laughed, straightening up. Ma'am, just making sure it's safe. The other soldiers nearby chuckled. No one expected what came next, because as the young man stood, the base gates opened, and a line of senior officers stepped through. At their front was Sergeant Daniels, a man every recruit feared. His gaze caught the woman instantly, and then, without hesitation, he saluted. General Carter, he said loudly. Welcome back to Fort Haven, ma'am. The laughter died. The two recruits turned pale. One even dropped his cap. The woman, General Evelyn Carter, just smiled faintly. At ease, Sergeant, she said. Seems your men are vigilant. The silence that followed was suffocating. The wind picked up dust, swirling around the recruits' boots like judgment itself. Evelyn looked at the two soldiers who'd tried to steal from her. You remind me of myself at your age, she said calmly. Curious, reckless, thinking the world owes you something. Her voice carried the quiet power of someone who'd led men through fire and loss. But in this uniform, she continued, the only thing you owe is respect. Sergeant Daniels barked their names, ready to drag them off for punishment, but Evelyn raised her hand. No, she said. Let them stay. Let them learn who we used to be. And so, as the morning stretched on, she opened that old duffel bag. Inside were relics, a folded flag, a rusted compass, a medal with burn marks on its edge. She laid them out on the bench like ghosts returning home. This flag, she said, touching it gently, was carried through every mission of the 5th Tactical Recon. Half the names on it never made it back. The recruits shifted, eyes down, shame crawling up their necks. The field had gone utterly silent. Only the hum of the wind, the soft clink of the metal. One of the boys finally whispered, Ma'am, why do you still carry all that? Evelyn looked up at him. Because memory is weight, she said. And a soldier never puts it down, not if they respect what it cost. For a moment no one spoke. Then Sergeant Daniels stepped forward, his voice quiet. Permission to speak freely, ma'am. She nodded. He looked at the recruits. This woman trained half the command you serve under. When she retired, she left her medals behind. But she came back today, because her grandson, your fellow soldier, graduated this morning. The boy's eyes widened. The duffel bag wasn't full of valuables. It was full of legacy. Evelyn smiled faintly, her gaze distant. I wasn't angry you touched my bag, she said softly. I was only afraid you'd never understand what was inside. As she turned to leave, the recruits snapped to attention, their salutes trembling. The crowd that had gathered, mechanics, medics, clerks, followed her with their eyes until she disappeared beyond the gates. And when the dust finally settled, her words lingered in the air, heavier than any reprimand. Because respect isn't demanded, it's earned and remembered. And sometimes, the greatest weight a soldier carries isn't in their hands, but in their heart. Before you scroll, tell me, what would you have done if you saw someone being disrespected like that? Let's talk in the comments. And if you believe stories like this should never be forgotten, subscribe, because more untold moments like this are coming your way.